The modern game of tennis is dominated from the baseline, so I am going to take you through my top 5 rackets if you're a baseline grinder. If I'm going to grind it out from the baseline, I want a few things out of my racket. I want to generate plenty of power from the back of the court, as well as plenty of spin. I also want a racket that I can fling around, is a little bit more forgiving, is going to allow me to stay at the back of the court and grind out those long points. I'm thinking clay courts, hard courts, any time that the baseline is going to be your friend, you're going to be dialed in on those long rallies, grinding from the back of the court, and these are the best rackets to do it with, in my humble opinion. Let's get into it. In at number 5, it is a classic choice. It is the pro's choice. It is, as you can see, the Wilson blade, and here it is in its wonderful Roland Garros livery. I've gone for the 98-60-19. So it might be a theme of this list, but not necessarily my favourite version of the blade. I really like the 1820, the denser string blade, giving a little bit more control, but the 1619, a little bit more open, so generating more spin. And I like the 98 because I think it's the sort of purest blade. You're getting a smaller head, so you're getting slightly denser, but the 1619 is still open enough to generate all those things that I talked about, power, spin, and all that sort of thing. The blade demands to be thrown around, to be wielded, to dice through your opponent, and what better way to play from the back of the court? The Wilson blade, absolutely quintessential baseline grinder racket, in at number 5. Celinko have long made fantastic tennis strings. Think Hyper-G, think the new Mach 10 Confidential, great strings. They now also make some fabulous rackets. And my number 4 on my baseline grinder racket is the White Out. This is the 305. This is also the version 2 in the interesting camo look. Not my favourite looking racket, but there you go. This is kind of new to us at PH. We only started testing these quite recently, and again, while it's not my sort of go-to style of racket, it's loads and loads of fun, and it's great for flinging around. It's sort of slightly head heavy, so it feels like you can really whip it about, generate loads of spin and loads of sort of explosive power as a result of that. It's also similar, very similar to a blade. It's quite sort of thin. It's quite sort of thin beamed and narrow, and so you get plenty of control with it, and it's just a lot of fun. That's why I think it's going to be great from the baseline, creating loads of spin, driving your opponent back, and all round being able to manage the game from the back of the court. When I initially picked it up, I didn't love it, but the more I played with it and started to understand it and understand how to play with it, which I think is from the baseline, grinding it out, this racket gets better and better, and that is why it's in at my number 4 baseline grinder racket. In at number 3, and it is our favourite, or what we consider to be the best all-round racket, and that is the Yonex VCore. I've gone for the 100. Again, I actually prefer the 98. I prefer it slightly denser in the smaller head size, but the 100, if I was going to have to grind it out on clay for hours and hours from the back of the court, God forbid, it would be the 100 that I choose, just because of that easier access to power and easier access to spin. If I'm having to spend a lot of time at the baseline and spending a lot of time on the court, I want a racket that makes it a bit easier, and this is what the VCore 100 is going to do. It is absolutely fantastic all over the court, and that's why we love it. That's why we do all of our string tests in this racket, because we think it's the best all-rounder. But from the back of the court, especially in the 100, you are going to be able to grind and grind and grind and grind and grind, and it's going to give you everything that you need. And should you eventually maybe move into the court because you're tired of baseline grinding, this racket is going to be able to handle that too. So there you go. In at number 3, the Yonex VCore 100. If I'm going to stand at the back of the court and loop ball after ball after ball, I want something that's going to give me a lot of spin, and it's also going to be comfortable for a long time. And where better than the Head Extreme to head for that sort of impact. I have chosen the Pro because I like a little more weight. This isn't a really heavy racket, it's only 305 grams, but that extra weight is just giving you a little more plow through, a little more penetration, a little more stability as well. With the Auxetic 2.0, fabulous material that I'm sure you've heard us talk about a lot, material that expands and contracts on impact, giving essentially a feeling of flexibility as well as comfort and stability on contact. Magnificent material, that goes into the Extreme Pro, and especially good for when you're at the back of the court grinding long, hard baseline rallies. So the Extreme Pro in its slightly wild, high-vis colouring, absolutely brilliant from the back of the court, I'd say, especially if you're on a surface like clay, something that's a bit slower, and you want to generate loads and loads of topspin. Spin big with the Extreme Pro. In at number 1. Drum roll please, Rhino. It could only be one. There is only one. It is made famous for baseline grinding by the very best at grinding, and it is, of course, the Babolat Pure Aero, and this is the 98. As used by Carlos Alcaraz, almost, but not quite, straight off the shelf is the racket that he uses, the 98. And it is absolutely brilliant, really stiff, really powerful, but of course, being an aero, generates the most amount of spin. What you get in the 98, which I particularly like, is an extra cross. So it's a 16-20 pattern, so you get more control. So while it's a spin racket for sure, while you can generate loads of power, you've also got that added element of control, which makes this racket truly elite. It generates all that spin that you need from the baseline, it generates that power that you need, and you're going to be able to dominate your opponent in multiple ways when grinding from the baseline. If I was choosing a racket, if I had to play from the baseline for hours and hours, which I don't like to do, but if I had to, this would be my number 1 choice. The Aero 98 from Bablat, the best baseline grinders racket. So there you go. If you want to grind from the baseline, look no further than these 5 rackets as a starting point. They're going to give you everything you need. They're going to give you loads of spin. They're going to give you loads of power. They've also, depending on which one you choose, going to offer a little bit more control, a little bit more comfort, depending on what you need from the back of the court. Now, it is of course personal preference. Some of these rackets might not suit you, but I'm sure that one of them will be the absolute perfect choice if you want to grind out results from the back of the court. It is of course personal preference. These are my choices. I'd love to know in the comments below what you think I've missed and what your favorite 5 baseline grinder rackets are, so do let me know. As always, don't forget to like, follow, share and subscribe so you never miss a thing from PH Tennis.